All right, so if you were with me last week, we talked about underpainting, and that is how we got these voluptuous lips down here with our blue. Today we're going to talk about putting color on it. So these are going to be the final steps in a painting. If you are interested in learning this next part, we're going to talk a little bit about color theory, a little bit about blending, and how to get those final layers on that we are looking for to get a final product. So today I'm really excited to talk about the color red and how to get shadow and highlights of this color to get red lips. First things first, I'm gonna put some red on my palette. I'm going to water it down with a nice big brush here, and I'm gonna glaze my entire lips. All right, let's scooch our palette in here and talk about how to make the palette that we desire. So we're looking for a shadow version of red, highlight version of red, and reds in between. So first, how do you pick what color to mix into red to make it a shadow color? Well, let me tell you, there is something called, there's something called Complementary Colors. So if you've never heard of this, this is like one of those things my students like leave my classroom and they're like, that is like absolutely one of the best things I ever learned. Complementary colors are located directly across from each other on the color wheel. Directly across from each other. So when you mix them together, they create shadow colors, right? Orange and blue are directly across from each other, and I actually just kind of landed it right here, adding blue, orange, right? And you get like grays. You also get like browns. Controlling the ratios of how much of each you're putting into each other really helps it be like more of a red shadow or more of a green shadow. So red and green are complements to each other. We're gonna use a little bit of green to get that red shadow. I always like to get started with my darks for some reason. I'm gonna take a scoop of red somewhere over here in this hot mess of red over here. I'm gonna take a little bit of green, and this is phthalo green in case you were wondering. And you can already tell it's getting like more of that maroon, more of that like dark reddish brownish color. So the more green you put in it, the darker it's gonna get and the muddier it's gonna get. If you go too much green, it's gonna end up like a green shadow and not a red shadow, and you'll be able to tell pretty quickly. All right, so I'm really big on starting with my shadow colors and blending towards my lightest, but you certainly do not have to do that. All right, I'm gonna start with this top lip in here, and we're gonna go from our shadow to our lightest moment. So starting with that kind of brownish red and coming in here and moving with the edge I'm closest to. We talked about cross contours recently in our last lesson, so you can move up and down, right, to get those movements we're looking for to show form, right? Our lip is curved, which is why I'm curving my brush strokes in those directions. Looks so good. You can also curve across, and what way does this move when you move your brush across this way? How does your lip feel when it moves across? How does the surface bend? All right, right before I get towards that lighter blue, I'm going to stop a little bit before that value. Okay, so before I keep going here, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm really excited and I just want to paint. I'm pretty much set like a fancy paint by numbers, right? It's not paint by numbers. You set it up yourself, right? You did all the hard work, but you've set your values down and you just made your palette. So what you need to do is match your palette, match the values that you just mixed to the values that are on your painting. That's why I put my darkest darks in my darkest area, and that's why I'm about to blend my mid-dark into my mid-dark areas, right? I'm trying to match those values. And the great thing about paint too, and especially acrylic paint, is like you can change it up a little bit if you want to. And they also are water-based, so they're a little bit more transparent than you think. So those values that you already set down are actually going to help set the value of the value that you have now on your paintbrush that you're trying to match. Just all these great things helping you out so that your journey can be nice and efficient and quality. I like to move towards like that pure red sooner than later. Sometimes I get really carried away with the shadows and like everything just kind of like ends up being like shadow colors. Maybe I'm in a really dark mood, who knows? Okay, I'm getting like really close to my highlight here. So blending, I've been blending. I haven't really talked much about it. Make sure that you're using the body of your brush. You're going back and forth between the two colors that you're trying to blend. So repetition between the two really helps smooth out that paint. So as I go towards my hot pink here, right, what I'm going to do to blend the two is I'm going to get right next to that the color I just used, and I'm going to move into it with my brush and go back and forth until I smooth the two together. And if you can still see your underpainting, do not panic. We layer with acrylic paints so that we get nice, rich paint, smooth brush strokes, and chance for multiple opportunities. I love that, right? Why only do something once when you enjoy it so much? Keep going until it's really where you want it to be. And I know that this light value I put on here is quite a bit lighter than my value that I had underneath it, but because of that glaze, it got a little bit darker than I wanted it to. So I want to get this light value in here so I have really nice contrast. Great. Now I'm going to keep going and keep layering my pinks and reds and maroons on top of where my values that I've already set down are. So let's keep painting, shall we? If your paint ever dries up and you're trying to blend, just make sure you relayer it. The paint gets nice and wet, and then you can blend the two together. Now, one of the most like empowering things to know about light is that when it hits a surface, when it hits a smooth surface, it has to move sequentially from dark to light, right? Light doesn't just skip from your darkest moment to your lightest moment immediately. What you get is you get all those midtones in between. So knowing that I just put on my darks, I have to go to my next lightest value before I get to my pure reds, which is like right in the middle. All right, so knowing that you need those colors in between will set your journey, let you know what's coming ahead so you can figure out how much space you have. And again, do not ever sweat it, right? This is especially just like my first layer. So knowing that, I'm like, well, let's just get some color in there. And you know, if I need to bring in some lighter values, some darker values, switch around where some of them are later, I can do that in my second value, and I can already see some work I have to do up here. Love that chance for second opportunity. Layer by layer, I get another one. Whew, almost time for my second opportunity. First, I just want to say thanks for tuning in. Also, if there's something like you're dying to learn about, if there's something you would like me to see, if there's something... Woo! Almost done. Before I get started on my chance for second opportunity, maybe 3 or maybe 4, I would just like to ask everyone if there's something you are dying to see, if there's something you really want to learn, do not hesitate to comment below and tell me everything your heart desires, as long as it has to do with painting. All right, I love teaching. I love sharing all my secrets. So I'm here for you. I'm here. Consider me your spiritual teacher. I can teach you what you want. Just let me know. So I think I'm ready to blow dry this and keep going with a second layer and maybe a third until I feel like everything is smooth, right? Meaning all of my colors are blended together and looks good, colors look good, and I'm happy with it, and maybe I get to paint a background over this. So here we go. My last thing I'm gonna do is whenever I'm dealing with like something that might have a little wetness to it, I like to take a little bit of pure white. I might even like water it down a little bit on my palette. A little bit of pure white, and like where can we have some like shiny moments on our lips? It doesn't even need to be like wetness, it can just be like shine. And it's usually, the case is it's usually right in those lightest areas, but like right in the middle of it, right? So in my lightest area of my lips right here, I'm just gonna go towards the middle of it. And I'm still gonna move with that motion of the lips, but I'm gonna go right in the middle. Make it rough around the edges. And if it's too much, if it has like too hard of an outline, you can always just take some water and just soften those edges a little bit and pull it. Right, you learned about pulling of the paint in that first video I did with the underpainting. If not, make sure you click the link in the description to watch the underpainting technique. But I'm pulling this white paint into my pink space, just kind of like act like I blended it in there, but I didn't. I'm just softening the two colors into each other here so I can get that nice shine in my lips. And here she is. If you had fun with us today and you learned lots through our painting tutorial about red, a little bit of color theory, and layering to get a final product here on top of an underpainting, don't forget to ring the bell so you can get alerts for videos to come. Subscribe to Embodied Art Studio page. That way you can join me and all my fun beginning acrylic painting tutorials to come. And I hope you have a beautiful day. From Embodied Art Studio,